This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I am Spencer Linton alongside Jerem Jordan. It is now our pleasure to welcome in longtime Cincinnati Bearcats football radio analyst and a guy who's been linked with UC Athletics for almost 45 years, whether as a student athlete, broadcaster, and certainly an ambassador. He is Jim Kelly. Jim, welcome to BYU Sports Nation. Great to talk with you.
Well, great to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. As we look at this Friday night matchup, and we looked at where the experts in the desert put the line to begin, which was BYU as a 1.5-point favorite. It grew to 3. And then really in like less than a 48-hour period, it just swung to Cincinnati. So now Cincinnati comes in as a road favorite. Why do you think the Bearcats match up well with BYU and come in as a favorite in spite of losing 2 straight games?
Yeah, I do think they match up well. Why the point spread moved like that, I really have no idea. But the points that you made there, was 1.5 points BYU, then it went to 3. I think I saw it as high as 5, and it swung back. And what that just says to me is that it's going to be a pretty close game. Cincinnati being on the road with, the time change and a little bit of issues with the altitude. I understand why they initially were an underdog in this particular case, and BYU being at 2-2 and Cincinnati, being at 3-1 and Cincinnati being at 2-2. Certainly that spread made sense. Why it swung back the other way, I don't know. But regardless of that, I do think it's 2 teams that their strengths kind of match up against each other. And from that perspective, I think it could be and should be a very close football game.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be a fun one. What's weird about this line, the only explanation we could come up with, Jim, is the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift effect of Cincinnati just riding this massive wave this week of popularity. What's it been like for Bearcat Nation to take in that one of their own is dating perhaps the most popular person in the world at the moment?
Wow. It's a clash of cultures for sure, but you can imagine in Cincinnati what it's like. And the folks that make the jerseys are literally making Travis Kelce throwback jerseys.
Oh, yeah.
And they will be very popular very soon when they hit the market. It's pretty amazing. And, it gets a lot of ink nationally and as well as in Cincinnati. And, to her credit, she's a wholesome brand. She does a lot of good things. And she was in Cincinnati for 2 shows this summer. And it was just really neat to see the way the city reacted to her. And, it was neat to be downtown when she was at the stadium just to have the vibe around. And so from that perspective, she's good. And Travis, sometimes he can put his foot in his mouth, but at the same time, he's one heck of a football player.
Yeah.
And he's got a whole new group of fans now, but they're all 13 and 14 and 15. So.
Yes. The Swiftie Nation combining with Travis
Exactly.
Kelce. His podcast has grown exponentially.
I started listening to it this week. I love it.
It's really good.
So good.
I mean, they both him and Jason do a great job. Tackling all these really heavy subject matter. But it is a good broadcast or a good podcast.
Oh, amen to that. Jim Kelly is a Cincinnati football radio analyst. He is live with us on BYU Sports Nation. Jim, we know very well that Cincinnati's rush defense is elite when it comes to Big 12 rush defense. So good, led by big Dante Corleone. BYU's offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick said this week he's one of the best football players up front that I've ever seen on film. We're not expecting BYU to suddenly be able to run the ball against Cincinnati, but in your expert opinion, having watched this Bearcats team, if BYU doesn't have any type of advantage in the run game against that front, where is there a cause for concern for Cincinnati defending BYU?
Well, there's plenty of causes for concerns. And I'll be honest, and you guys probably are thinking the same thing. It's a mystery to me why BYU hasn't run the ball for more. Or hasn't run the ball, yardage-wise, rushing yards-wise, that they haven't been able to get more on the ground. I don't think they're going to quit trying tonight. I really don't. And that's one of the things with Corleone, with Briggs, with Eric Phillips, the 3 down guys, running right at them is probably not a bad idea. Now, that being said, the explosiveness of the BYU offense is what scares Cincinnati. And that's one of those things that, a big play can really, really change the course of a game. And from the passing game in particular, where the big plays normally hit. So they're very, very concerned there. So they're going to try in a measured way to put pressure on the quarterback, those three in particular. There'll be some additional guys, from time to time, they'll mix up their packages like everybody does. And, whether that includes linebackers, occasionally maybe a safety, definitely at times a corner, maybe the nickel corner. So, but that would be the concern. As far as running the ball against those guys, maybe the best way is to run right at them. If you can get to them and get by them, there's some space out there. But they are a good front, and they can go 6 deep there too. The 3 guys that I just mentioned, and you mentioned Dante Corleone, he's absolutely fun to watch. He's just not very tall, not overly tall for a defensive lineman. And it is slimmed down 15 pounds from last year, but he can create havoc there. And then Juwan Briggs is very, very good as well. And then Eric Phillips is the third. All 3 of them are really, really good. So the defense has played well. The secondary played well against Oklahoma. They did not give up only one explosive play in the passing game. Their concern this week is that BYU will be able to hit some of those. And they will probably play it very cautious, keeping guys in front of them, which means, the short and intermediate passing game is going to be there. If indeed, the front 3 guys don't get to the quarterback or force him out of the pocket. And that's the advantage there for BYU is he can throw on the run. So, that's advantage for you guys.
Jim, how are people feeling about Cincinnati football? Because a big win over the Colonels of Eastern Kentucky, obviously, and then that was a nice win at Pitt. And then losing the Victory Bell for the first time since 2005 was a little weird, but Oklahoma comes to town. Only 6 points scored, but 20 allowed is a good number against the Sooners. So how are people feeling about Cincinnati at 2-2 at this point?
Yeah, I mean, obviously losing that Miami game, we'd be sitting here at Cincinnati would be at 3-1, BYU at 3-1. It's probably getting a little bit more national attention. So losing that game to Miami hurt. And I guess the scary part, or the part that would concern the Cincinnati fan base, is in the last 2 games, the Miami game and then the Oklahoma game, they have moved the ball tremendously between the 20s. I mean, really, really not huge numbers against Oklahoma, but huge numbers against Miami. But failures in the red zone, puzzling failures in the red zone, because you're moving the ball at ease against 2 pretty good football teams. Miami, certainly not the caliber of Oklahoma, but still a pretty good defense, but unable to get into the end zone. And, even in the Oklahoma game, even if you score, so they were 2 out of 8 on touchdowns in the Oklahoma game in the red zone. Even if they, again, the Miami game, even if they get against Oklahoma, they were shut out other than field goals. So if they get 1 touchdown, that game comes down to the end. And that Oklahoma game, you're looking at whoever scores last potentially walking away with the win there. It wasn't that close because Oklahoma kept them out of the end zone.
Jim Kelly, Cincinnati Bearcats radio football analyst, is with us on BYU Sports Nation. We'll finish with this, Jim. We've talked a little bit about playing on a short week. Cincinnati has to travel. They've got to play in Provo on a Friday night at altitude. How much of an impact, if any at all, do you feel like any of those factors will have on the Bearcats and the way they play tonight?
I really don't think it'll have a factor at all. And here's the thing, and everybody in the Big 12, and quite honestly, everybody in the Big 10, everybody in the ACC, the SEC, you've got to worry about this now with basically you're playing the whole country. So you're going to have to travel time zones. Now, the altitude is something you don't find everywhere, but honestly, there's some ways to combat that. They're doing all those things. They're hydrating more than they normally would to make sure that doesn't bother them. So you've got whatever big time conference you're playing in right now, you're going to have to be ready, whether you're going east, whether you're going west, you're going to have to be able to cross time zones and deal with it. So I don't think that'll be, I honestly think what's going on the field, the X's and O's, is a bigger concern for Cincinnati, stopping BYU, being able to kind of get away from those red zone woes that they have and put some points on the board. in this particular case, they feel like they need to somehow be 24 points or so on the offensive side to be in this football game tonight, because they believe BYU is going to be able to move the ball and score. So I don't know that it's a huge thing. Now, that being said, it is the first time they've traveled big time this year. They did play at Pittsburgh, but that literally is 250 miles away, and not the same time zone. So even though that was a road game, they played very well there. This one's a little bit bigger in the fact that they had to come, I think I was told it was in the neighborhood of 1,500 miles, and then, 2-hour time difference. So it does, and not to mention the altitude. Cincinnati is 450 feet above sea level, and I think we're about 4,500 or so in Provo, something like that. So there is a difference there. But again, I don't know that's going to make a big difference, and it's certainly something that the Bearcats need to get used to.
Jim, we appreciate the time, and take this for what it's worth. Before Taylor Swift was a fan and friend of Travis Kelce, you, good sir, were a fan and friend of Travis Kelce. You're old OG friends, if you will, and that's got to be worth something now.
Absolutely. So I've known Travis quite a while, and Travis's story is a great one. And that I can't even think of the name of their podcast, The Heights. Which is a tribute to where they grew up in Cleveland Heights, is a really, really good podcast. And Travis is an interesting guy, and Jason is just a wonderful guy. And I think, honestly, we'll probably see both those guys in the NFL Hall of Fame sometime.
Great stuff. Jim, thanks for the time. Great to talk with you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Jim Kelly, Cincinnati Bearcats radio football analyst.
He said 24 as well.
24. I'm telling you, 24 is the – yes.
Okay, then.
So I'm telling you, it's there. It's there.
I didn't believe him until he said it. No, just kidding. Cougar pregame live tonight, 8 Eastern on BYU Radio.